Hello everybody. Today we're going to be learning all about different styles of music. Blues, reggae, rock, jazz, ragtime, swing, opera and baroque. The skills we're going to be using today is our thinking skills and our listening skills. Let's start off with the blues. So, the blues usually has 4 different identifiers. It's usually slow and sad in a 12-bar format. It has 3 chords and usually includes voice.
I was walking down through the woods.
The blues is a style of music created by African Americans at the end of the 19th century in the deep south of America. It developed out of folk music, spiritual songs and work songs. Following the American Civil War and the emancipation of the slaves, blues spread throughout America as African American people were now free to travel. The blues became popular in cities such as Chicago, Detroit and New Orleans. The blues would have originally been performed by a solo singer accompanied by a guitar or a banjo. The lyrics of a blues song would be full of emotion and would tell the story of life and longing for better days. Blues is in simple time with 4 beats in a bar and mostly follows a 12-bar blues chord structure. Alright, let's look at reggae music. Reggae is a unique form of rock music which originated in Jamaica. It has its roots in a number of other musical styles. You can hear the influence of Jamaican music as well as American rhythm and blues, which would have been easily picked up in Jamaica in the days of early radio. The roots of traditional Jamaican music can be traced back to African music due to the number of Jamaicans who are descendants of Africans brought to the West Indies to work as slaves on sugar plantations. Reggae emerged in the late 1960s and can be identified by the time signature of 4/4 with a heavy accent placed on the 2nd and 4th beats in the bar. It's a strophic form, which means a repeated verse and chorus. Its typical rock lineup: vocals, backing vocals, electric guitars and bass guitar and drum kit. Let's look at another style, rock. Rock music will always include guitar, bass, drums and vocals and usually has 4 beats in the bar. Today's rock music developed from rock and roll and it can come in many different styles but will always feature electric guitar, bass guitar, drum kit and almost always a singer. The songs written by rock bands usually have powerful lyrics and the music is underpinned by a heavy beat. It is important to consider the structure when listening to rock songs. They feature a verse and chorus structure and there will often be a middle 8. Distortion is an effect frequently used on an electric guitar in rock music. This means changing the normal sound of a guitar in order to make it sound more fuzzy. Have a listen. Okay, let's take a look at jazz. Jazz music usually includes acoustic instruments and lots of improvisation. Jazz emerged as a new style of music in the early 20th century in the African American communities of New Orleans. Jazz has its origins in blues and ragtime. As I mentioned, jazz features lots of improvisation, which requires musicians to creatively explore and experiment with sound, express themselves, listening carefully to themselves and the people around them, and respond to the improvisation of people they're playing with. All of this is done spontaneously, with musicians to react in real time to what is going on around them. Syncopation is a common feature in the rhythm. This is where the emphasis is put on the rhythms that are off the beat. There are many different styles of jazz. Traditional New Orleans or Dixieland jazz, a style originating from music played in New Orleans in the early 20th century. Bebop, a style from the 1940s. Cool jazz, a more laid-back style from the late 1940s. Latin jazz, featuring rhythms from Latin American music, jazz fusion, a style from the late 1960s that mixes jazz with blues, funk, rock, and other styles. Okay, let's look at ragtime. Ragtime developed as a popular music style at the end of the 19th century and has its origins in the saloon bars and dance halls of African American communities. It was originally played on solo piano. The left hand played a very steady rhythm, a vamp style accompaniment which is on the beat. The right hand played a syncopated melody, known as a ragged rhythm. Okay, so before we looked at jazz, let's have a look at swing. Swing music is played by a big band which includes groups of saxophones, trumpets, trombones with a rhythm section. It's in a jazz style and uses lots of improvisation. In the 1930s and 1940s America, some jazz bands grew into much larger groups of musicians. These became known as swing bands or big bands. Each band had its own arranger who wrote the music. Although there were still some improvised solos in swing music, playing the parts that were written by the arranger was very important. Some of the famous band leaders, or arrangers, include Duke Ellington and Count Basie. Swing music became really popular around the world and the UK developed its own big bands. Next up, opera. An opera is a musical play performed on stage with costume, scenery and props. Opera began in Italy in the 16th century and was performed at court to entertain royalty. It soon became the ideal musical style for celebrating mythology and historical characters and performing to public audiences. Early operas tell the stories of Greek dramas and were sung in Italian. Italian dominated the musical form until the 18th century. By this time, composers across Europe, such as Henry Purcell, were composing operas and establishing their own national traditions. Now operas are sung in many languages, including German, English, and Spanish. Operas consist of solo singers and a chorus. The orchestra that will provide the musical accompaniment to opera singers will consist of strings, woodwind, brass, and percussion. There is no speaking in opera, only singing. Solo singers perform arias. The chorus will join in for the bigger songs and consist of an SATB choir that will sing in harmony. SATB stands for soprano, alto, tenor, and bass, the different voice types. Last but not least, Baroque music. Baroque music comes from the period approximately from 1600 to 1750. Famous composers from this period include Vivaldi, Handel, and Bach. Baroque music is recognised for its use of repetition, scales, and sequences. Melodies are played alongside each other to create polyphonic music that contains contrapuntal phrases. These phrases weave in and out of the music as melodies are passed around from player to player. The result sounds as if some of the instruments are imitating each other. Okay, so that was just a quick bash through these different styles of music. I hope you used your thinking skills and listening skills.